So what is up, guys? Soda the Savage back, and I am here with week Derek Carr predictions. It is week 4 in the NFL, and yeah, honestly, this week isn't looking too exciting. Not many really good matches, except like the only really good one that I'm looking forward to is Chiefs and Pats, but I'll get to that later. So anyways, now, usually these videos are very long, and if you're just looking to watch like a certain team, me predict a certain team, timestamps will be in the description below, and make sure you drop a like and subscribe to my channel. It means a whole lot to me. But anyways, got a lot of predictions to get to, so let's get this video started. So now you have our Thursday night football matchup between the Denver Broncos and the New York Jets. I really don't want to have to predict this one. Like, this match is just going to be so bad. But anyways, I'm going to be starting out with the Denver Broncos, so I had no expectations for you last week, because with no Drew Lock, you screwed. Jeff Driscoll threw for 176 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. He might have got injured, so in came in Brett Reapin, and he threw for 53 yards and a pick, so not that great. In terms of rushing, nothing. Melvin Gordon only had 26 yards. In terms of receiving, your big three were Jerry Jeudy, Noah Fant, and Tony Patrick. Jeudy had 55 yards, Fant had 46 yards, and Patrick had 43 yards and a touchdown. Your defense falling apart to the Bucs, I get it. They got a good offense, so not too bad. But anyways, in terms of the Jets, I expected you to get crushed by Indy. Jesus, you guys were like Indy was favored by 11 to beat you, and they beat you 36-7. Sam Darnold, 168 yards, a touchdown, and 3 picks. Definitely has that bust label right now. In terms of rushing, your big guy was Frank Gore, 57 rushing yards. Not bad, but in terms of receiving, Brian Berrios was your guy, 64 receiving yards and a touchdown. And other than that, it was nothing, because Indianapolis just completely ravaged you guys. Like, your defense didn't even do that much, because, like, the offense just, like, the Colts defense just completely silenced you. Like, their offense barely had to lift a finger. But anyways, Jets are favored by a point to win, but I'm going to say the Denver Broncos take this victory on Thursday Night Football. And now you have our very next matchup, which is a rematch of Super Bowl 41 between the Indianapolis Colts and the Chicago Bears. Starting out with the Colts, well, you didn't have to do much last week. You faced the Jets, you won, so what? Phillip Rivers threw for 217 yards and a touchdown, so honestly, good performance by him. In terms of rushing, Jonathan Taylor was your leading guy. 59 yards and a touchdown. T.Y. Hilton, 52 yards, no touchdowns. But, like, Ali Cox, like your new tight end, he's just kind of been doing it all. 50 yards and a touchdown. I think he's top 10 in receiving this year. But in terms of your defense, you guys just completely silenced the Jets. Not that much of an accomplishment because they suck. And then the Bears. So Trubisky does his usual thing. Suck. So he threw 128 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. And then you bring the man, the myth, the legend himself, Nick Foles. And he, even though he threw a pick on his very first possession, he comes back strong with 188 yards, 3 touchdowns, and another victory. Like, this was another come-from-behind victory, like a last-second victory, and it was over the Falcons. Like, seriously, Dan Quinn for the Falcons should not even have a job. I'll get to that later, but anyways, good victory for you. On terms of rushing, you only had, Mitch Trubisky had a 45-yard run, and that was on 1 carry, and David Montgomery only had 45 yards. It's just so bad. But in terms of receiving, Allen Robinson finally came back out, 123 yards and a touchdown. Jimmy Graham had 60 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, he's good with Foles, but Drew Brees was way better with Jimmy Graham. And Anthony Miller, 41 receiving yards and a touchdown. In terms of your defense, got a bit of a slow start, but shut them down in the fourth quarter. But so what? It's the Falcons with a lead. There's, no expectations at all. So, yeah. Currently, the Colts are favored to win this one, but I'm going to say that the Bears come out with a victory on this one. So, the Bears win. Now you have our very next match with my boys in the New Orleans Saints and the Detroit Lions. Starting out with the Saints. Look, last week, going up against the Packers, lost 37-30. Here's what I want to see change. I want more deep passing plays. I want the line to do a better job at protecting Brees. Why he's throwing so many checkdowns? Well, here's why. Because the line's going to fail him at the last second, and Kamara's the last guy open. And call some more depth plays. If you're wondering why our offense had so many times we stalled, it's because when we were on third down, they knew we were going to do a screen pass or a check down. Call some more depth. Brees had 288 yards and 3 touchdowns, but he was carried by Alvin Kamara as Kamara had 58 rushing yards, but he had 139 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. And honestly, that's really it. Like, our defense, like I said, is a walking penalty flag. Either we're getting burned or we're just giving up like massive plays on defense, just like what Alan Lazard did to us last week. And then with the Lions, you hadn't won a game in like 11 months, and you finally won, so good job. Won 26-23 over the Cardinals. Matt Stafford threw for 270 yards, no touchdowns, but Adrian Peterson, he might be the oldest running back in the league right now, but with second oldest because Frank Gore. But with 75 rushing yards, he's still got hope left. Kenny Golladay finally off the injured list. Only had 57 receiving yards, but he did have a touchdown, so very good. TJ Hawkinson had 53 yards and no touchdowns. Marvin Jones, 51 yards. But the big highlight was your defense because you picked off Kyler Murray 3 times. Like, Kyler Murray, I don't know what was up with him, but he was just throwing picks to the left and to the right. And, of course, you won on the leg of Matt Prater. So, good job to you guys. So, the Saints are favored by 4.5. I say we win and cover the spread, but don't fuck this one up, Saints. Straight up. And now you have our very next matchup between the Carolina Panthers and the Arizona Cardinals. Starting out with the Panthers, I thought you guys were screwed with no Christian McCaffrey, but you pulled out a victory over the Chargers, so well done. Teddy Bridgewater threw for 235 yards and a touchdown, proving that he was just not a product of the Saints. Like, he's a good quarterback. And I hate that he's on the Panthers, but I love the guy at the same time. So anyways, Mike Davis, he's no McCaffrey, 46 rushing yards. In terms of receiving, your big guy was David Moore, 65 receiving yards. No, DJ Moore, that's it. Robbie Anderson had 55 yards. Mike Davis, he did follow up in the receiving game with only 45 yards and a touchdown. Does not have quite the production McCaffrey does, but he's serviceable. In terms of your defense, you held out the Chargers for a while and stuffed them on the last drive, so good on you. Like, your defense, of course, I say is just a big question mark, but it did well last week. And then the Cardinals, Kyler Murray, what the hell were you doing last week? 270 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did follow up with 29 rushing yards and a touchdown, but 3 picks. Like, you can't be doing that. I said last week that you could possibly be an MVP candidate. I don't see that in you anymore. In terms of rushing, Kenyon Drake was your only other guy, 73 rushing yards. DeAndre Hopkins, he's proven that he's good with anyone, as he had 137 receiving yards. And for other receivers, your only other guy was Andy Isabella, 4 receptions for 47 yards and a touchdown. In terms of your defense, come on, you fell apart to the Lions. Like, they won their first game in 11 months. I was predicting they wouldn't get their first win until, like, week 10 when they were facing the Washington football team. But anyways, didn't pull out the victory. Cardinals are favored by 3.5 to win, and I'm going to say they win and cover the spread. And now you have our very next match between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Cincinnati Bengals. Starting out with the Jaguars. Fuck, I hyped you guys up so much last week against the Dolphins, and you do that. 31-13 loss against the Dolphins. Starting out, Gardner Minshew just didn't have it. 275 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick. In terms of rushing, I thought Chris Thompson would be your guy, but James Robinson was, as he had 46 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. In terms of receiving, your big guy was Robinson as well. 6 receptions, 83 yards. He was literally carrying your team. But Keenan Cole Sr., 43 yards. Chris Thompson, 35 yards. Chris Conley, 34 yards. And honestly, that's it. No D.D. Westbrook, no DJ Chark, but he was injured, so nothing out of that. In terms of your defense, you just fell apart to Fitzpatrick. It was a mix between like a little bit of Fitz and some Myles Gaskin in there. So, yes. And then Cincinnati, you guys tied Philly last week. You shouldn't have tied Philly. Like, you honestly should have lost or should have won because Doug Peterson just was not aggressive enough. Like, I think if he went for that 64-yard field goal, which honestly I probably wouldn't have, but, Cincinnati, they could have won that. And they could have lost that at the same time. So, Joe Burrow, 312 yards, 2 touchdowns, but was sacked 8 times. Jesus Christ, get your O-line together, Bengals. Joe Mixon does nothing. Like, last year I had him in fantasy, and he was, like, not productive at the beginning of the year. Trade him away, but eventually I got him back later in the year, and then he was finally productive. On terms of receiving, your big guy was Tyler Boyd, 10 receptions, 125 yards. That's how you do it. But T. Higgins was your other big guy, 40 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. A.J. Green, proving that his injury has hampered him, as he only had 36 yards. On terms of your defense, like, you picked off Carson Wentz twice, but honestly, I wasn't expecting you to do much, but you held Philly, you held them to a tie. Not great, but oh well. So currently the Bengals are favored by 3 to win this match, and I'm going to say Joe Burrow finally gets his first win. Bengals win and cover the spread. And now you have our very next match between the Cleveland Browns and the Dallas Cowboys. Starting out with the Browns, you actually have a winning record for the first time since like 2014. Baker Mayfield, 156 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He's not really throwing the ball, but you don't need to when you got Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt combined for 35 carries. So there was a stat like when the Browns rush for over 25 times in a game with Baker Mayfield, they're like unstoppable. But when they rush for under, they're like 1-16 or something. So anyways, Chubb had 108 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kareem Hunt had 46 yards and no touchdowns, but he did follow up with 18 receiving yards and a touchdown. On terms of receiving, Odell Beckham Jr. only 59 yards and Jarvis Landry only 36 yards. Austin Hooper proving he couldn't do too much. You faced the football team, so honestly, I'm not that impressed that you beat them. But this is going to be a big test, facing off against the Cowboys. And then the Cowboys, where's your defense? Like, for God's sakes, 38-31, that was the best game last week. Best game of the week was Seahawks-Cowboys. Dak Prescott threw for 472 yards, 3 touchdowns, but 2 costly interceptions. One of them was on the final drive, so yeah, that's rough. Ezekiel Elliott could not get anything going, but they were not giving him the ball that much. Only 34 yards and a touchdown. Michael Gallup and Cedric Wilson. Gallup had 138 yards and a touchdown. Wilson had 107 yards and a touchdown. Cooper did all right. 9 receptions, 86 yards. CeeDee Lamb, 65 yards. So honestly, everyone on offense did really well. Your defense just completely fell apart. But look, you're facing the Seahawks. The only good thing that you did was with DK Metcalf as he caught a ball, about to go in for the touchdown, kind of stuck it out, and your defender just punched that right out, went right for a touchback. So good on, that was like your only good play on defense. So the Cowboys are favored by 5 to win. But you know what? I'm going to say the Browns pull off a major upset because Dallas has no defense. Browns have been showing they got a little bit of defense. So I'm going to say Browns win and pull off the upset. This is going to be my upset of the week. Now you have our very next match between the Minnesota Vikings and the Houston Texans. Starting out with the Vikings, an 0-3 start already, I'd be in panic mode. Kirk Cousins threw for 251 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks. He is showing a little bit of regression, but he did okay, but one of those picks was on the final drive. It was just like a late heave downfield. It was just picked off by Tennessee. Dalvin Cook just ravaged that Titans defense, 181 yards and a touchdown. And Justin Jefferson, hey, way to show that you were a good 22nd overall pick. 7 receptions, 175 yards and a touchdown. And that was pretty much it. Adam Thielen had 29 yards and a touchdown. Like, Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook just carried that offense. In terms of your defense, like, you did force them to kick the ball 6 times, but Gostkowski nailed every single one of those. They only had, like, 2 touchdowns on the game, and then the rest was done by Steven Gostkowski. So, yes. And then the very next matchup, for the Texans, you have had a rough start to the season, but here it is. Deshaun Watson, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Like, you guys need to help him more. He's got nothing. David Johnson, only 23 yards and a touchdown, so you didn't win that trade. You literally just brought in guys with, like, more expensive contracts than just paying D-Hop. Randall Cobb showed that he did well. 95 yards and a touchdown. Will Fuller, 54 yards and a touchdown. That was pretty much it. Your defense falling apart to the Steelers. I get it. Their offense is getting better since Big Ben was back. But no, you guys have had like the hardest schedule to start out the season. You're 0-3, but you're favored by 3 to win this match. I'm going to say the Texans pull off their first victory of the season. Texans win and cover the spread. And now you have our very next match between the Seattle Seahawks and the Miami Dolphins. Starting out with the Seahawks, Russell Wilson, already front runner for MVP. Threw for 315 yards, 5 touchdowns, and no picks. In terms of rushing, Chris Carson had 64 yards. And that was pretty much it. You guys didn't really use that much of a ground attack because everything was in the air. DK Metcalf, 4 receptions, 110 yards, and a touchdown. Could have had 2 if, well, they didn't punch the ball out on that one play for a touchback. But Tyler Lockett, 9 receptions, 100 yards, and 3 touchdowns. In terms of receiving, your only other guy that produced was Greg Olsen with 61 receiving yards, and that was it. In terms of your defense, well, you fell apart to the Cowboys, but they do have a very, very dangerous offense. So definitely their offense is very good. So I could see your defense falling, but come on, you got to do better. Like, Dak did all that he could. You limited Zeke, but then Dak used the arm and just completely ravaged that D. Got to work on that. And then the Dolphins, Fitzpatrick threw for 106 yards, 2 touchdowns in a 31-13 victory over the Jags. He did also rush for 38 yards and a touchdown, so, like, he's not bad, but, like, he's serviceable. Myles Gaskin had 66 yards, no touchdowns. In terms of other guys, like Devontae Parker had 69 receiving yards, has 69. and that was pretty much it. Myles Gaskin had 29 yards, and no one else really produced that much. Like Mike Gesicki, after a breakout week, kind of fell back, had a reception and 15 yards and a touchdown. Your defense, you stopped the Jags. Whoop-de-doo. Not that impressive. Like, come back when you maybe stuff the Seahawks. That'd be pretty impressive. So, Seahawks are favored to win this one, and I say they win and cover the spread. And now you have our very next match between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the LA Chargers. Starting out of the Bucks, oh boy, you beat the Broncos. No Drew Lock. Their team is injured to hell and back. So I'm not that impressed that you won. But Tom Brady, 297 yards and 3 touchdowns was pretty good. The rushing game wasn't much. Ronald Jones had 53 yards, no touchdowns. Leonard Fournette only had 15 yards and no touchdowns. Scotty Miller, 83 yards, no touchdowns. Chris Godwin came off his injury, 64 yards and a touchdown. And that was pretty much it. I mean, Gronk finally had some more receiving, 6 receptions for 48 yards. And then there's Mike Evans. Like, he has only been able to get, like, just touchdowns. He had 2 receptions, 2 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Just literally 1 yard plays on the 1 yard line. In terms of your defense, you stopped the Broncos. They got no offense right now. Injured to hell and back, like I said. And then the Chargers, you fought well, but how'd you not beat Carolina? Like, their defense is utter trash. I mean, Justin Herbert threw for 330 yards, a touchdown, and a pick, so honestly didn't do too bad. Austin Eckler had 59 yards and a touchdown, and followed up with 84 receiving yards and a touchdown. Keenan Allen broke out for 13 receptions, 132 yards, and a touchdown. But unfortunately, like at the end, Herbert throws it out to Allen, but he tries like a lateral to Eckler, and it failed. And the Chargers and the Panthers recovered and won. In terms of your defense, like you did fall apart to the Panthers with no Christian McCaffrey. That, as always, is going to raise a couple of question marks. But anyways, the Buccaneers, they are favored by 7 to win this one. But I'm going to say that the Chargers are going to pull off a victory here. This could be, this is like the second biggest upset of the week. So I'm going to say Chargers win. And now you have our very next match between the Baltimore Ravens and the Washington football team. Starting out with the Ravens, Lamar Jackson, you came into that Monday night match. I was expecting way more out of you. I did expect you to lose, but not the way you did. 34-20 against the Chiefs. Lamar Jackson threw for 97 yards and a touchdown. Could not make any completions. Basically became a running back again. Had 9 carries for 83 yards. So not bad, but definitely could have been improved upon. In terms of rushing, Gus Edwards had 39 yards. Ingram had 30 yards. In terms of receiving, your big guy was J.K. Dobbins, 38 yards, and Mark Andrews, 22 yards. But I'll be honest, they were dropping passes to the left and to the right, so could have helped out Lamar Jackson a bit more. Your defense falling apart to the Chiefs, that's not that bad. Even though you are hyped up to have a really good defense, you're falling apart to the Chiefs. So I say there's no issues in that. And then the football team, maybe Dwayne Haskins isn't all as hyped up to be as he was. Only 224 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 picks. And Antonio Gibson, 49 rushing yards and a touchdown. In terms of receiving, your big man, Terry McLaurin, 4 receptions, 83 yards. And you had your guy, Inman, 3 receptions, 38 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Defense fell apart to the Browns, but, you did fall apart to the rushing duo of Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. So that's nothing to be ashamed of, because that's just a lethal duo. But yeah, no. That's pretty much all I got. So currently the Ravens are, of course, favored to win this one by 13.5. So I'm going to say, yeah, the Ravens win and cover the spread. Just like a nice rebound for Lamar Jackson. And now you have our very first 4 o'clock matchup between the New York Giants and the LA Rams. Giants, what the hell was that last week? You against the 49ers was basically like a freshman football team, like 9th graders versus the 12th grade football team, and you got creamed 36-9. So Daniel Jones threw for 179 yards, no touchdowns, and a pick. And he ran for 49 yards, so honestly, nothing. Darius Slayton had 3 receptions, 53 yards. Golden Tate, 36 yards, and that was it. You fell apart to the 49ers, basically, they're a good team, but they're missing everyone good. They don't have Garoppolo, Coleman, Mostert, Kittle, Bosa, Solomon Thomas, Richard Sherman. They're missing everyone, and you still lost. And then the LA Rams, you were down 28-3 to the Bills. You erased that whole lead, led 32-28, but then you lost. Jared Goff, I gave him so much shit last year, but he did well today, last game. 321 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Darrell Henderson ran for 114 yards and a touchdown. Like, you guys got a bit of a running back by committee, so who knows who could be next. Cooper Kupp finally broke out, 9 receptions, 107 yards and a touchdown. Robert Woods, 5 receptions, 74 yards and a touchdown. Josh Reynolds, 60 receiving yards. Tyler Higbee, 40 yards. So that was pretty much it. Your defense fell apart to the Bills, but all of a sudden, like, Josh Allen can actually make completions. But you did take a couple of bad penalties, including, like, that one controversial PI. But it's about time you got fucked over by PI. I had a great laugh about that one. So, you know what? If the Giants won last week, I'd have some optimism about them. But fuck that. Rams are favored by 12.5 to win. I say they win and cover the spread because Giants, like, come on. You can't lose to the 49ers. You can't. It's like you can't lose to them when they're missing everyone. Rams win and cover the spread. And now you have what I think is going to be match of the week between the New England Patriots and the Kansas City Chiefs. Starting out with the Patriots, you know, last week I did have some doubts about you going up against the Raiders, but you did well for yourself. Cam Newton threw for 162 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Sony Michel and Rex Burkhead kind of carried the load. Michel had 117 rushing yards. Burkhead had 49 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he followed up with 49 receiving yards and a touchdown. So he was kind of carrying the load the whole game. N'Keal Harry had 34 yards. Darrell Byrd had 27 yards. Edelman had 23. So honestly, like, you faced the Raiders. They don't exactly have the strongest defense, but you did shut them down after 2 rather good performances. So good on you guys. Good victory. And then the Chiefs, you know, I expected you to win last week. Everyone was saying it was going to be the Ravens, but Pat Mahomes still proves that he's the best in the league. 385 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Clyde Edwards-Helaire only had 64 rushing yards. Pat Mahomes did have 26 rushing yards and a touchdown. Kelsey had 87 yards. Hardman had 81 yards and a touchdown. No, McCole Hardman, 81 yards and a touchdown. Tyreek Hill, 77 yards and a touchdown. So honestly, honestly, a good game played in general. You guys completely silenced the hype on the Ravens, just made Lamar Jackson turn into a running back again, and you ravaged that defense. And Lamar Jackson, he's 0-3 against the Chiefs with Pat Mahomes. So yeah, there's kryptonite. So currently the Chiefs are favored by 7 to win, so I'm going to say they win, but the Patriots are going to keep this one close. So Chiefs win, but don't cover the spread. Now you have our final 4 o'clock matchup between the Las Vegas Raiders and the Buffalo Bills. Starting out with the Bills, 28-3. You blew it, but you won it. Starting out with Josh Allen. His accuracy is finally there. 311 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a pick, even though he did have some, like, IQ moments that were just awful late in the fourth quarter, a lot like how we played at the end of Bills-Texans, the wildcard round. But enough about that. He did well. Didn't really rush much. He only had 8 rushing yards and a touchdown, so definitely did more with the arm, so I'm happy to see that. Devin Singletary, 71 rushing yards, no touchdowns, but anyways, big guy of the game was Cole Beasley. 2 big receptions, but he did have 6 for 100 yards. 2 of them were very clutch. Singletary had 50 yards. Stephon Diggs had 49 yards and a touchdown, but Tyler Kroft had 24 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns, including the game winner. Your defense, I know you're injured quite a bit, but I don't know. Like, if your defense can get back to form the way it was last year and the offense can do what they can do, you could be favorites. Plain and simple. And then Vegas, I expected more against the Pats. He had 261 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks for Carr, so very good. Josh Jacobs only had 71 yards, no touchdowns. Hunter Renfrow, 84 yards and a touchdown. Bryan Edwards, 48 yards and a touchdown. So honestly, your defense, of course, fell apart to the Patriots, but Derek Carr did have 2 fumbles that he lost, and Josh Jacobs lost 1. So, of course, the Patriots defense did make you pay for your mistakes. So, yeah. Currently, the Bills are favored by 3 to win, and I say they win and cover the spread. And now you have our Sunday Night Football matchup between the Philadelphia Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers. Starting out with the Eagles. Come on, like, what is this? 0-2-1 to start your season. I have so much hopes for you. You're so far the biggest disappointment of the season. Carson Wentz, 225 yards, a touchdown, 2 picks. His O-line is just leaving him out there to die. Miles Sanders had 95 rushing yards, no touchdowns, but Carson Wentz did follow up with 65 rushing yards and a touchdown. In terms of receiving, your big guy was Greg Ward, 72 yards and a touchdown. Zach Ertz had 70 yards and a touchdown. No one else really did much. And that's honestly it. Like, you guys just disappoint me. Your defense, the Bengals, they got a sliver of hope on offense. So, yeah, I can't really say that much. And then the 49ers, come on, you guys had no one, but you beat the Giants, so that's not much. But yeah, so Nick Mullins, 343 yards, a touchdown, and no picks. But like I said, it's the Giants D. I expect them to get burned. Jerick McKinnon had 38 yards and a touchdown, and he did have 39 receiving yards, so not a bad game by him. Brandon Ayuk finally had his first touchdown, which was a rushing touchdown, as he had 31 yards and a touchdown. I did follow up with 70 receiving yards, and Kendrick Bourne, 63 receiving yards. Your defense shutting down the Giants, not that much of an accomplishment. Like, they suck. So even though, like, the 49ers have no one, and the Eagles just still suck, like, they're still, like, 49ers are still favored to win by 7, so with how bad Philly's been, I'm going to say the 49ers win and cover the spread. And now you have our Monday Night Football matchup between the Atlanta Falcons and the Green Bay Packers. Atlanta. Fire Dan Quinn. Just constant chokes. I got nothing to say. You fell apart again. Another 20-plus point lead that you blew in the fourth quarter. Like, double-digit leads. Apparently you can't hold on. You just suck. Anyways, Matt Ryan, 238 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. In terms of rushing, Todd Gurley had 80 yards and a touchdown. Brian Hill had 58 rushing yards and a touchdown. In terms of receiving, no Julio, but Calvin really does well with 5 receptions, 110 yards, and no touchdowns. In terms of your defense, come on. Like, it's the Bears. Their offense just is completely trash, but apparently Nick Foles was just a slightly better option than Trubisky, and that was just the change that they needed to take you down. Fire Dan Quinn. And then the Packers, going up against the Saints, played well. No joke. So Aaron Rodgers, 283 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Aaron Jones only had 69 yards, has 69, and a touchdown. But, going up against the Saints pass rush, that's tough, but I could see him doing a lot of big things against the Falcons. Allen Lazard was your big guy. 146 receiving yards and a touchdown, but I think he's undergoing surgery, so he's going to be missing some time. So that's going to be missed, but hopefully you get Devontae Adams back soon. That's pretty much it. Your defense, you did well against the Saints. We were pretty predictable with all of our freaking just short checkdowns on third down. So, of course, defense did well, forced the big fumble from Taysom Hill, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So, anyways, Packers, they are favored to win this one by 7. I say they win, but don't cover. So you may have noticed that Steelers and Titans did not get announced. Now, originally they were supposed to be playing this week, but like 8 members of the Titans contracted COVID a couple of days ago, and 2 of them just contracted them today. So there's 10 total guys with COVID, and they postponed the game, so they're just going to have to figure that out. But that's going to wrap up my video for today. Thank you guys all so much for watching. If you want to see all my other prediction videos, well, at least this season, weeks 1 through 3, my recaps, links to those will be in the description below. Make sure you drop a like on this video, subscribe to my channel, comment down below what else you want to see from me, who you think is going to win this week, and who's going to be the big upset of the week. Make sure to follow me on Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok @StuDoTheSavage. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day. Peace out.